Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. At least for a little bit, hopefully, just a little bit, because Lucas, my co-host, has apparently terrible time management. It's just going to be me, David. I'd like to welcome you to the show. And since I'm the only one getting to play with the banners today, forgive me if I'm a little slow on them because I'm having to do producer and be in the show today, which I don't normally do. Normally, me and Lucas switch off on this, and I'm not as good at it. For those of you who've never tuned in, this is Brewing Controversy, and myself and my co-host, Lucas, we'd like to get on here and do what we've been doing now for a solid year, which is talk about current events and drink beer and talk to you about both. Normally a little bit more of the current events than beer, but we like to drink the beer while we're doing the show. So welcome. Gonna be a little bit different this evening because since it's just me. Our new normal format is we've been dividing up the show, but since it's just me, at least for the first hour, we're going to be moving things in a slightly different direction this evening. Instead of doing quick takes, we're just going to jump right in to doing topics. So, first things first, there were a good number of interesting current events this week that definitely got me ticked off, as Lucas's messenger log can show. Read this article, Lucas. This week, a woman in Texas was arrested for murder. Because, and again, the details are vague at this point. But it appears that what happened was she chemically induced an abortion well before the 20 weeks allowed by Roe v. Wade. No one else, as far as Texas authorities can find, assisted her in this abortion, but she was taken to the hospital, and the hospital reported her to local authorities for murder. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? So there's a list of things that are wrong with this. I'm going to start with my normal sort of spiel about abortion. If you want to ban abortion, that's fine by me. As long as you provide housing, job placement, medical care, nutritional assistance, child care, educational assistance, all those things to every expectant mother, every new mother, every single mother, every one of these mothers, and their child. Fine. Oh, and free contraceptives, that universally available, no questions asked. That would also be a thing. I would be fine with that, right? Because at that point, the only reason you would need to have an abortion is you genuinely fucked up. Contraceptives were around, or you had a medical necessity, which also needs to be a requirement if we're going to ban abortion. Yeah, we can do that. We can definitely do that. But notably, the anti-choice clique, as I like to call them, they don't want to do any of those things. They just want to ban abortion, which means it's not actually about abortion, right? It's not really about women getting pregnant. Because I mean, if it was all about, these are unborn children, then let's go take care of the children, right? That's that logic follows. One and then the other. Makes perfect sense. But they don't seem to care about any of that. Instead, they like to ban books at schools and cut funding to schools and do things like that, and cut funding to nutritional assistance programs that help very often families in need to feed their children. They were against things like paid medical leave for expectant mothers and new mothers. They were against things like free or subsidized childcare. So it's not actually about children, is it? Because all evidence points to the contrary. It's just about being mad at women who have sex. That's it. Which, I guess if you're a radical environmentalist, there's a point to be made there. Like, hey, we don't want to have new people. Okay. But there is nothing about this abortion debate that has anything to do, at least from the anti-choice side, has anything to do with protecting children. It's about punishing women. Because all these other things you could do to help children, you don't want to do, except prevent abortion. That's it. That's the only method. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, at least in this instance, is what the hell was the hospital thinking? All right, I'm not gonna laugh. Sorry, I just saw John Bush's comment. Hi, pipe pop. I don't have my pipe in yet. It's right here. Which I'll probably end up smoking it here in a little bit. But I thought I'd actually, say words first. But the point is, what was a hospital doing reporting a woman who had a medical condition for murder? I want to know what that, because quite frankly, I'm going to love to see that lawsuit, because that hospital is going to be run by that woman they turned into police. There is no other possible option that's going to happen out of that. There was no reason for them to call the police. The fact that it just boggles the mind what had to go through that hospital administrator's mind as he sat there and said, you know what? I just came in with a woman who chemically induced abortion before 20 weeks. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to violate patient confidentiality, medical ethics, basically simple fucking human decency. And I'm going to call the cops. What? It's incredible. By the way, I also want to say hi, Brian. If you're here, feel free to chime in, say hello. We're more than happy to have you here. Hi, Jeremiah. There we are. Hope you don't mind Jeremy, because I just called you Jeremy. I'm sorry. But it's incredible. And so we have to ask, what is it about, really? Brian here mentioned, to the GQP, women are still chattel. And that's what it's actually about, if we're being honest. It has nothing to do with saving children. It has nothing to do, even with, and this is a point I like to bring up a lot, because a lot of these people like to cite religion as the reason that they're opposed to abortion. And the problem is that doesn't track either. If we're going to go back to Mosaic law, the law of Moses, abortion it's not exactly encouraged, obviously. I don't think there's any civilization that encourages abortion. But it's not against the rules. In fact, very explicitly, the standing in Mosaic law, the law of Moses, the law that Jesus of Nazareth would have been very familiar with. And you think that if he had a problem with abortion, he might have mentioned it to someone somewhere at some time. And they probably would have written it down and said, oh, the Messiah is not exactly in favor of abortion. Okay, we should write that down. No, he didn't. There's nothing, right? So under Mosaic law, the rule was you had to deal with the person who was in front of you before any other potential person who could be in front of you, which meant that the life of the mother was paramount. That was the law of Moses. So Jesus seemed to be cool with that. And St. Thomas of Aquinas, who wrote Summa Theologica, seemed to understand that abortion existed. And again, not necessarily a fan, but coincidentally, he drew a line that, at least in terms of development, that runs about 20 weeks, which is what Roe v. Wade, surprise, draws the line at 20 weeks. After that, there have to be other considerations. It's really shocking, right? There is no true religious objection to this other than manufactured of we don't like it. And why don't you like it? It's because you don't really respect women. Or if you do, they have to fall into a trope, right? A very, Virgin Mary trope, that eternal mother. But the problem is Mary had to push a kid out there, right? Now, granted, religiously, we accept the idea of the Immaculate Conception, but for every other person, there had to be something had to go in before the kid came out. You can't really get around that. So there is this idea that women need to be punished because they have sex. That's what it is. Women should be punished because they have sex or because they don't obey their husband. It's shocking. And it doesn't make any damn sense. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court right now, we have no idea which way they're going to go with this. We don't really know. I mean, if it's put to them, we have no idea. I would hope that Roberts would take a look around and say, man, I don't know. And hopefully maybe Gorsuch as well. But what's happening in Texas? And today, of course, Oklahoma banned all abortions again. This is one of the things that pisses me off. The law before Roe v. Wade allowed for abortion, right? We have had a legalized abortion in this country the entire time. The only difference was that if you wanted an abortion before Roe v. Wade, you had to get interrogated by a doctor to find out if you were eligible for one. And by eligible, it meant, well, you caught them on a good day and maybe they decided that it was okay. Because before, you had to go through this entire inquest about, was it really rape? Was it really incest? Did your uncle really fuck you? Are you actually in medical danger? I mean, yeah, you're suffering from massive preeclampsia, or your liver is shutting down, or your kidneys are in near failure. But are you actually in medical danger? I don't know. And the Supreme Court said, you know what? Fuck this. No more of this interrogation of women who want to have an abortion. If it's before 20 weeks, you, woman, may have an abortion. And that was the law. And that was the reason we Roe v. Wade happened. Roe v. Wade didn't happen because there was no abortion. Roe v. Wade happened because the medical community had no way of, within the law, of being able to deliver that service to women with any degree of privacy. That's why it happened. So, I mean, it's and now they're trying to go back to the system where we'll just ban it all. Now, of course, and this is one of the things that boggles my mind. The women most likely to have an abortion belong to conservative and religious groups that loudly profess that they hate them. And it's one of the dichotomies in this conversation that doesn't get mentioned enough, in my opinion, which is the people who are having the abortions don't expect abortion to be actually made illegal, right? What they expect is that they'll be able to have abortions and brown people and poor people won't, because they don't deserve them, because they're morally inferior because they're brown or poor. That's what they're thinking. They're fucking assholes, but that's what they're thinking. Because again, if you go, I mean, the single largest denomination, religious denomination, with almost a majority, somewhere in the realm of 40% of women who in many cases have participated in surveys with the Southern Baptist Convention, have had abortions. So you got to have one and no one else does. Because Jesus? Huh? It doesn't make one damn bit of sense. And if we continue to escalate this, something's got to give. Because, I mean, someone has got to start calling out. I'm tired of calling them the pro-life side, because they're not pro-life. Like I just said at the beginning of this rant, they don't give a shit about life. They don't give one goddamn steaming shit about human life. What they care about is control and power. And they want to feel morally superior. And I'm tired of having a conversation where their desire to feel morally superior is somehow weighed equally against the very real possibility of lifelong poverty or even death of women. Now, your feeling of moral superiority can go fuck itself. I'm tired of it. I'm not doing it anymore. It's not equal. You are anti-choice. You are not pro-life. No. Oh. So since I finally got to take a sip of my beer, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up. As soon as I find it. So for my beer, for the first half of the show, I'm drinking Rheingeist Barrel Aged Ink. It's an imperial stout, and I gotta say, as you know, I've been drinking a lot of imperial stouts for the show, and this is definitely the one where I'm just like, there's times when brewers make a big deal about barrel aging stuff, and you have to stop and look at them and say, did you remember to take what was in the barrel out before you put the beer in? This runs pretty close up to that. This has a really strong alcohol bite. I mean, it's got a really nice chocolatey note. But man, on that front end and a little bit on the mid, that's booze. That's very boozy. It's 13%. But I mean, I've had 14, 15% that do better than this. I mean, I feel like when they're doing this, sometimes they're not really taking into account how much alcohol. My operative theory because I've never had the opportunity to barrel age a beer in used spirit barrels. My operative theory is it depends on the manufacturer and how much of the spirit that wood is absorbing, and how long. I think this has been aged for a year in bourbon barrels. Of course, they don't tell you what bourbon. So I mean, I think it depends. I mean, I kind of want to believe that if you were aging it in maybe like Bullet or Knob Creek, that you wouldn't get that much of an alcohol bite. Jim Beam, on the other hand, maybe a little bit higher, more alcohol flavor in the mouth, and not as much of the. Yeah, and you know what it is when I say that alcohol flavor to me, and maybe it's because I'm a Tennessean. It's that caramel, the thing, stick that tastes so strong. You know, when you mix in the caramel with a strong chocolate note, you can make a really great beer out of that. When you just get that whiskey caramel flavor. And it's not like, you know, some people describe the whiskey as like having a little bit of peanut to it. And I can definitely see that. And again, that would work well with an imperial stout. But when you just get that alcohol caramel off brown liquor, man, it's got a bite to it. It's not bad. I want to make this very clear. Is this something that I would typically drink on like a normal fall or winter day? Yeah, because I mean the alcohol bite is kind of good. Is it something that I would normally drink in spring when they've decided to release this? No. Luckily, I have the AC on, so we're just going to pretend like it's fall. I mean, I'm wearing flannel anyway, so we're just going to, because this was the only clean shirt I had for today. I was lazy. So that. And as usual, we need to share Brian's Brian's participation in this, since he doesn't drink. He's for on the cannabis front. We have Purple Punch with, I have no idea what 18.4 THC is. Is that a lot, Brian? I have no idea. Yay, nay. And I'm glad, Brian, that you think this sounds like an interesting beer. Honestly, if I had just given that description to me, I'm not so sure I would have bought this. Okay, so 18.4 is stout. It's good to know. I like to educate myself on my vices. I don't smoke weed. I'm sure if Lucas was here, he would be very interested in understanding that. Since I don't smoke weed, I'm just sort of like, oh, what? I don't know. What is a body high versus I? Oh, yeah, it's that caramel note. Oh, wow. So that happened with the abortion. Another thing I've been reading that's kind of been tweaking me this week is, holy shit, the number of people who are coming out being like, well, Ukraine fought off that massive assault, but it was a fluke, right? It's just, little guy managed to find a chink in the armor and go to town on it, but he won't do it the next time. I mean, the Russians are going to, rearm and attack eastern Ukraine, and Ukraine can't fight a long-term war against the I just had to stop myself from calling them the Soviets. Ukraine can't win a long-term war against the Russians. Guys, I don't know where your thinking is. I feel like this is a lot of people backtracking and being like, well, the reason we were wrong about Russia not steamrolling Ukraine in the first place was something special happened. And it was really super special, and it's not going to happen again. We were actually right. We weren't wrong. We just didn't know about the special thing that was about to happen where Ukraine was somehow going to find this chink in Russia's armor and go to town on it. Russia didn't have a chink in their armor. This is one of the things that's boggling my mind. It's also boggling my mind about our response to Russia. Russia, there is no chink in the armor. This is what they've got. I mean, this is the thing that I really feel like centrists and neoliberals sometimes don't understand. When conservatives and rightists tell you something, they are not lying. Their ability to lie or obfuscate is so bad, you have to understand that they can't do it. It's like Cawthorn Treefucker talking about being invited to DC orgies and cocaine-fueled events and things like that, key bumps and all this. And you're looking at him going, none of what you said just made any sense whatsoever. Why are you opening? I mean, when they lie, it's so bad, it's obvious. And so most of the time when they're telling you something, they're telling you the exact truth. They are showing you exactly what they've got. Russia went in with everything that they had, right? They thought they could take Ukraine, with what they had on hand. And the Ukrainians took a sunflower, shoved a javelin on it, and then promptly took the whole thing and shoved it right up their ass. I mean, they're telling you what they've got. This is what Russia has. Russia sent in their best. They sent in their best airborne regiment. They sent in the Spetsnaz. They called in their Chechen, kill squads. All of them have been wiped the fuck out. These were not conscripts, because Russia can't even send the conscripts over. The conscripts who don't even get enough training to be combat veterans. They've already sent in their combat veterans, and the Ukrainians used them for target practice. No. The figures are right there in front of you. Russia can't economically sustain this war, and they've already sent in their best, and their best are dead. But they're going to re-equip and rearm, and they've got their new general in charge now, who's going to reorganize the effort and somehow salvage the situation. If this had been 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I would have said, okay, we might have trouble. But this isn't 2 weeks ago. This isn't 3 weeks ago. This isn't last week. The 40-mile convoy of Russians who were going to go take Kyiv are all fucking dead. All the troops that they sent, that they were going to send in there, are gone. And I want to point this out, something else important. When a unit has been decimated like that, maybe some parts of it may be salvaged and used as replacements for other units, but in general, all those troops that they tasked to go take Kyiv are out of the war, right? That equipment, when you take what's a piece of equipment people would normally use? Let's a four-wheeler or a snowmobile or some other outdoor vehicle, and you decide that you're going to do something like cross the continent on it, right? When you get to the end of that little endeavor, you've got to break that entire thing down and rebuild it, because that equipment that you just used has just been put through its paces to the point of its pieces are going to fail when you need them not to fail if you keep on trying to use it. Rally cars are another example, right? You take a rally car out and you're going to run it for 12 days. And you're going to put that piece of machine, even a piece of machine that's expressly designed and tuned for it, you're going to put that thing through its paces. It's got to be completely rebuilt because of what you've done to it. You've pushed everything to the point of fatigue, where if you were to take that car and turn it, try to turn right around and go back out to another rally, another multi-day rally, you're going to either destroy the car or possibly get hurt. So all of those tanks, all that equipment that they had that didn't get destroyed by the Ukrainians that they managed to pull back, it's useless for months. So I don't understand this defeatism, right? This idea. Well, I mean, no, the Ukrainians have very concretely proved that they're going to fuck shit up when the Russians show up. It's very clear. And what it is, I feel, is the mode that they're really upset about is, yes, the sanctions have taken a bite in the U.S. economy and in the economies of free nations. There's a deeper question, I think, to be asked in this, which is, why were we so fucking comfortable trading with autocrats? How did we let our trade regime get to this point where people are kind of nudging us to accept the genocide of the Ukrainian people because they're that afraid of how bad the economic situation will get? That's my take, because the centrists that I'm hearing on this are those, well, I'm socially liberal but fiscally conservative. No, you're just a dick. If you're fiscally conservative, then you're in favor of a lot of not socially liberal things, no matter how you want to cut it. It's astonishing. It's just simply astonishing. We need to have a conversation. Man, I get from an investor perspective where if you're just focused on pushing profits higher, how business with China and even Russia and lots of other places could make perfect sense, right? I've been in the position of having this conversation before of, I don't give a shit about your politics. If you make this about your politics, we'll have a problem. But as long as we can not have a conversation about our politics, and you don't make this business about your politics, and I don't make my business about your politics, then we can have an agreement. So I can understand that mentality, right? I can understand people looking at Russia and saying, well, Russia is Russia, and we're not there about the politics. We're there about making an economic deal. Ow. Oh, God. It's not getting better with time. At a certain point, though, if you're a multinational corporation, you are about the politics. You exist in part. I mean, McDonald's has people that they retain at exorbitant sums to go lobby politicians to vote particular ways. So we need to be honest about how these corporations behave, which is, no, politics are part of your business. If you get that big, you are in part dealing in the realm of politics. You are lobbying governments to pass legislation favorable to you and pass legislation unfavorable to your market competitors. That's what you do. You would be silly not to. Do I? I mean, and I'll be honest. I don't even see even from my happy little social democrat world, I don't even see a way to get rid of that effectively. If you have money and power and a large business, you are going to argue for people and governments to pass laws that are favorable to you. I've literally, again, been in conversations and in negotiations with people where they're like, well, this is what we are looking at on the regulatory landscape. And yeah, I mean, it might actually benefit us if we were to get some regulations passed, because our platform is able to adapt to those regulations and our competitors cannot. Right? That's logic. That's not you being a complete dick. I mean, you're being a little bit of a dick. But yeah. These corporations went in there and they did this, right? They went in there and they said, okay, we're going to ignore that you're jailing dissidents. We're going to ignore that you're stripping people of their human rights. We're going to do all that because we're going to convince ourselves and you, our consumers, that it's cool for us to not care about those things, as long as we're delivering you a cheap product. I think we need to take a much harder look at how we as society and as an economy allowed that to happen. I mean, right now, I really feel like Germany has to take a real fucking hard look at itself. I mean, like, you built an entire economy out of importing natural gas from a dictator. They may not started out as a dictator, but I mean, the writing was really, really on the wall about where we were going with this. And you, Germany, two-time world championship loser, second-time world championship loser. Holy shit, we made sure we cut your country in two because that's how bad you did things. And we had to develop a whole new realm of international law because of what you did. Yeah, we're just going to import natural gas from those guys. How did we get here? How did Germany get here? I mean, Hungary, I understand. I understand Orban putting up a stink and saying that he was going to continue to buy gas and pay the Russians in rubles and do all that stuff. Orban's a dick. The current government in Hungary are dicks. I don't. I would hope it would not be. No, that would come off as anti-Magyar. I'm not going to do that. For those of you who don't know, Magyar is the native ethnicity to the Hungarians. There's a lot of things going wrong in Hungary, and there have been for a while. So we're going to set that aside. How did liberal Germany get here? How did we get here? We, the defenders of democracy and freedom, unless it makes us money. I think that we're going to have, and that's why I feel like we're hearing this defeatist rhetoric from these centrist quarters, is because I feel like it's been coming for a while. It has been building to a point for a while where our economy cannot, and the economy of the developed world cannot continue to subsist on a model, which I want to point this out. I'm not a Marxist. Mathematically, Marx was right about a lot of things. I think the conclusions that he made out of his economic theories, however, were incorrect overall. Not wrong, just incorrect. We have to stop thinking about this in the way that we have of we're just going to continue to export what we think of as low skill labor to other countries. I understand where it made sense. I understand to investors who only cared about a bottom line where it made sense. Get the labor figures down. It'll be fine. And I would definitely say in the 70s, the American labor unions, in many instances, did not do themselves a lot of favors. They made a lot of bad deals with a lot of bad people, and they were not smart about things. And what even made it even sadder was they were proud that they weren't smart about things. Well, I'm just a blue collar guy. The fuck you are, right? I've seen the house you're living in. No. We need to be honest about what this is. This is the difference between management and labor choosing leaders who then kind of become management. All that's understandable. But I think what is coming to a head is we are going to have a much more explicit conversation as a society about how and where we're going to make our stuff and who's going to do it. Yeah. I want to comment real fast on Brian's little thing. Ritually scared my own government of thinking the Russians were a huge powerhouse of evil that we had to gird our loins against at great expense. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. We did definitely keep on telling ourselves the story that the Russians were huge and big. And here's the thing. From the 60s to the 80s, they were that big. They were that powerful. They could do that. After 1987, 88, no. I mean, they were done. And there's a story that one of my professors used to tell, and he was in the CIA doing image analysis, and he would tell this story about these semi-tractor trailer trucks that the CIA could see pulling up to Russian barracks. And it was odd because it was very explicit that they wouldn't drive through the gates. They would turn around and back up to the gates. And that's as far as they would go. And the CIA was racking their brains trying to figure out. And I want to clarify, this was in the 80s. Racking their brains trying to figure out what the Russians were dropping off at these barracks. And they finally caught a defector. And the defector explained to them that's how they had to get their troops into the barracks, the conscripts into the barracks. Because what would happen is if they tried to march them through the front gate, there would be a fight at the front gate. If they could back the tractor trailer truck up to the gate, there was no place for them to run or fight, right? You could get them out because many of the soldiers who were going into these barracks understood that they were about to be robbed. They were about to be, beaten to show who's in charge. And many of them were about to be sexually assaulted, again, to prove who was in charge. The pecking order of the conscripts was who, you don't ask fuck me, I ask fuck you. That was how life was for Russian conscripts. And that's how bad it was. And the Russians knew it was that bad. Like, if you were a conscript, you knew once you started to walk through those gates that you were entering the zoo, man. And the lions and tigers were hungry. And you were going to get eaten. It is a little bit that the Russians, that we were told the story and it didn't actually pan out, right? The story of the big, powerful Russian bear hasn't really panned out, and likely maybe never would. We were so terrified. I mean, this is one of the reasons why why the nuclear issue is even on the table right now. Is we were so terrified during the Cold War because we would look across the border and we could see 8 Russian tank divisions to every one of ours. And the reason mutually assured destruction exists, I know I've said this many times to the show, but you know what? I'm going to keep saying it because I'm sure there's someone who hasn't heard it. And for fuck's sake, everyone needs to understand this about mutually assured destruction because it's a big thing. I mean, the thing that could, cause the extinction of our species is something we should all know about. The reason that happened was the only way NATO could figure out how to stop those 80 tank divisions on the Soviet side was to use nuclear weapons. And the Russians understood that, right? The Russians understood that we would have to, that if they started moving their tanks in an offensive, we were just going to pepper the area in nuclear weapons to stop those 80 tank divisions. And that if the Russians wanted to be successful, they understood, well, they had to try and nuke us first to stop us from nuking their tanks. So that's how we ended up with mutually assured destruction, right? Is because both sides had an agreement, which is if you do something, I have to nuke you. Because I have to nuke you, you have to nuke me. That's no longer the case, right? There's not 80 tank divisions getting ready to storm Berlin on their way to Paris anymore, right? That's not happening. And it's very clear that if they tried, the German army would be more than capable of handling that situation in a damn hurry. I'm pretty sure the Finns right now are like, hey, we're ready for round 3. Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on. I mean, last time was kind of a draw. First time we whipped you. Let's do round 3. I'm feeling good about this. So yeah, I mean, but again, I'm going to come back to the economic point because that's where I really feel like this defeatism is centered. It's centered on what these people view as their economic costs. And I think it's time that we need to have a serious conversation about, no, we need to bring the factories home. We need to bring the trade home. And ironically, I say this as someone who does not want the trade to stop because trade is a great facilitator of peace. Ideally, it's what's called democratic peace theorem, right? Democracies that trade between each other will not go to war with one another. No democracy that trades with another democracy has ever gone to war with another democracy with which it trades. Period. It's never happened. Never. So the hope is most of the time that if you're trading with another country, even if they're not a democracy, that trade should help prevent war. It should help prevent bad action because that country does not want to lose trade. It does not want to take the economic hit to its economy. That's not working out the way we thought it would. It hasn't worked out, and I think where we have failed in that democratic peace theorem is we fail to account for how bad our economy has gotten. We're arguably still a democracy. We are still a democracy, but arguably we might not be, right? We might be a little bit of an oligarchy. And these other countries with which we've been trading, they are perfectly capable of shutting down every factory in their country. They regularly, Russia and China, regularly look at Western firms and basically say, you know what? I just developed a new tax today. And if you don't want to pay it, I'm just going to jail all your employees from your country that are in mine until you do. So really, when I say tax, I mean ransom. Right? That's what I'm going to do. And you know what? You may not even be able to pay the ransom, and I know that. Really, what I actually want is something else from your government. And so we're do that. And the reason I say that America kind of could also fall into that category, we just did that a couple of months ago to Huawei, big provider of 5G infrastructure, arguably a sort of arm of the Chinese government. And we arrested some of their some of their senior leadership because of espionage issues. Were they genuine? Probably, in a way. Is that exactly what the Chinese do to our people? Yeah, it is. We're behaving exactly the same, and it's so it's the problem with the democratic peace theorem is it doesn't accept that if both sides agree to be dicks about it, then we can make this work. But does it actually promote peace or long-term economic stability? I think now we're coming up on an answer, which is no. It does not. It does not promote peace. It does not. People argued that we opened up China and they got freer because we were trading with them. The fuck we did. We traded with them because they had a lot of cheap labor. And they offered to sell it to us to make a bunch of cheap shit so they could close down a bunch of American factories and even Mexican factories. All sorts of factories. And they were going to save money. And they were going to offer their products to us cheaper at higher profit rates, thanks to the Chinese. And they didn't really care whether or not China was a democracy or how China treated its people or how China was going to do anything. They didn't care. And I think we should have. Because if someone had stopped them and said, China may do something that is so beyond the pale that we're going to have to go to war. I would like to believe that their greed might have actually paused for just a moment to say, I know I can get, for $1 today, I can get $2 tomorrow. And I know that if instead I put this dollar over here, I could get $10 later on. But I really want the $2 tomorrow. I know someone said that to me, but you know what? I really just want the $2 tomorrow. I don't care about the $10 in next week. I want the $2 tomorrow. And that's been their thinking. And now it's got us in a real bind. Because China is still supporting Russia. And we all now find ourselves in this position of needing Russian oil. And we should never have been here. So why are they defeatist? Because they want the hurt to stop and they don't want to have the change that has to come, which is your plastic toy factory needs to be in Guadalajara, not Shandong. Your assembly plant needs to be in Tacoma, not in Hunan province. You need to be getting your energy from renewable sources, not Siberian oil. All of these were only moderately more expensive in terms of the lifetime cost of the thing. In many cases, actually cheaper over the lifetime. They more, it's one of the things that you look at. You can like right now, I need to buy mom a new computer, and the question is, do I buy the cheapest thing that I could possibly buy, or do I buy something now that I won't have to replace again much sooner? It's that initial investment. How much are you willing to put down for the life of the product? It's one of the reasons why poverty is such a cyclical thing in America. Is because so many things in America for the poor in America, it's cheap at the beginning, and then it breaks, and so the lifetime of the thing is more expensive. So one of the reasons why we like one of the reasons we preventative medicine everywhere without insurance, even without insurance, everywhere should be free. Well, that should be a really easy thing for everyone to agree to, simply because if I treat illness early, it's so much cheaper than if I have to treat it late. And if everyone just got to have preventative maintenance, holy shit, how much we would save. So I mean, it's I think it's coming. I think it's coming. I mean, we're in a position now where the Chinese, at least in terms of their nationalism, are not in a good position to back off from wanting to invade Taiwan, and we're not going to let them take it because that's where all the computer chips come from, and we can't let them have that. So we will go to war to protect our supply of computer chips because we don't make them here. I mean, this is where this has gotten stupid with doing trade with autocracies. This is where this has gotten so stupid. We are going to have to go to war to defend another country with whom we have such a explicit trade relationship that we can't possibly be cut off from them. A China that controls Taiwan is a China that can control the vast majority of computer chips being made in the world. We'll never allow that. We will go to war. We shouldn't have to. None of us should be in this position where we're having to go to war to protect resources and things that we could have arguably been making ourselves. Not that Taiwan should not be free and independent. They should. They've earned it. The majority of Taiwanese are not Chinese, and they would rather not be part of China. But we should be having a conversation where we have to go to war to protect our computer chips. And the only reason China is even in a position to do it is because we've been trading with them so much, sending them so much money by buying their goods. The reason they're defeatist is because the change that's coming is hopefully coming. It upends this regime that we've seen since the 80s of we're going to go to a pure service economy. I think that the story of a pure service economy needs to be dead. No country can be that heavily reliant on a service-based economy. Otherwise, it collapses in on itself. So I think hopefully we're to that point where we get to change that. Which leads me to my last point, and I apologize if I've been kind of like going in a circle right there. But I mean, it's just so shocking. It's just so shocking that we've found ourselves here, and why people are being defeatist about this now that they realize it's likely trade with Russia, and possibly soon after trade with China is not going to be a thing anymore. Unionism or unionization in America. Amazon has had its first defeat. Starbucks continues to suffer defeats. The unions are back. And that's a good thing because we needed them. We always needed them. Part of the reason why it's arguable now that America is an oligarchy, as I said earlier, is because of the level of wealth inequality that has happened in America. There was a study done recently that said if minimum wage had kept up to where it should be, the minimum wage today should be more than $61. Minimum wage should be more than $61 to keep up with its purchasing power. Fuck. I mean, I knew we were in a bad place, but I didn't know. Ooh. Oh, man. That's a dream that's going to put hair on your balls. That is rough. That is rough. $61. That's how unequal the U.S. economy has become. And I would argue in large part it has become unequal because we abandoned unions. And we listen to the propaganda. We listen to the stories that and because the unions were corrupt. They were corrupt. Let's not pretend or play around here. Even I, as someone who is pro-union, will look at the unions of the 1970s and late 1960s and say, yeah, they were corrupt. And there wasn't a lot that we could do about that. I mean, in truth, the way the unions were behaving, they weren't good. They weren't doing what they needed to be doing. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So, I mean, it's if we were to go back in time and tell our past selves, hey, we need to fix. I mean, I don't think there would have been anything to be done. I think that what people are asking for now is something very different than people were asking for in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. I think part of what we need to accept is that we need to ask for a different type of union. And I think that's where Amazon, where the initial effort to unionize Amazon failed in Alabama and succeeded in New York. It wasn't just that New York. I mean, the fact that they only failed by just a little bit in Alabama tells me that no, there was room there. They couldn't quite find the right message to get to everyone. And I think that message is that this is not your granddad's union. This is not the union that is going to place massive objectives over the very basic needs of its members. And another thing that I think that happened with the unions, and I think that this new union push is looking to address is the unions from the 70s, 60s, 80s. They looked at people who were coming up. They looked at the youth and basically said, well, do your time for 20 years and maybe we'll have something for you by the time you get here. And especially in the 80s, most of those union members looked around and said, well, I served my 20 years. And the union would say, yes, thank you for playing. Fuck you very much. And I think that broke the unions a lot in America when they did that. When they looked at when young people joining trades, joining organizations realized that the elders in those organizations were completely fine with screwing them with their pants on, that this wasn't going to work for them, that they were better off just trying to negotiate something on their own. And I think that broke them. And I think we're heading back to a place where That's not going to be the case. In the case of the John Deere and the uh, Kellogg's strikes, both those explicitly made a point of saying there's not going to be a two-tiered system. Young workers get the same treatment as old workers in terms of how they're treated by this contract. And that was very explicit because they tried to do a two-tier system. Oh, we'll give you older workers a pay raise, but we're not going to give any of the new younger workers a pay raise. And the older workers said, no, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. Everyone gets the pay raise. Younger workers, older workers, we all get the pay raise. And that's not something that was happening before. I think we need to understand that unionization in America is changing. And because it had to change. Because the union that your grandfather belonged to is quite fucking dead. And it deserved to die. Because it at the end, it just became an old, angry, cadre man. Who was just simply mad that I don't understand the world. What is that music? I don't get it. You don't have to get it, you fucking asshole. Just listen to whatever you want. They're going to listen to whatever they want, and everyone's going to be fucking fine. And instead it was, well, I don't know about all these black people, or I don't know about all these, people I don't know or recognize being here. So I just want to get mine and screw everyone else. And that's what the union did. That's what many of the unions did. That's what the UAW did. That's what United Mine Workers did. Part of the reason the SEIU exists is because the AFL-CIO, as a group, decided that they were just going to screw everyone. By the 1980s, they decided they were going to screw everyone who was 25 years or younger. Right? Fuck them. As a result, unionization collapsed. And the result later on has been that we are suffering amazing wealth inequality in this country. It isn't just because we moved away from manufacturing, because the AFL-CIO could have looked at tech workers, but again, fuck everyone under 25, right? That's our deal. Fuck everyone under 25. Fuck everyone who doesn't, drink Budweiser 3 times a night and constantly craves poorly cooked steak. Because if you're ordering it anything under or over medium rare or medium, even medium well, medium well, no, I'm not going to allow that. Order steak anything above medium rare, you're a fucking animal. That's what they did. And now we're talking about a different unionization battle. Right now we're talking about a battle to bring unions to a generation which have never known them. Back. When I first entered the labor force and I realized how bad people were being treated, I tried to start a union, and so many people, and that was 12 years ago. Longer than that, 15, 16 years ago. There we go. 16 years ago. And people just really couldn't understand. And as a result, of course, at the end of it, not long after I got fired, everyone else got fired too, because they decided to outsource all their jobs. And I did make a point to someone that I saw later. I'm like, now, if we'd had a union, we could have stopped it. We could have looked at them and said, no, we won't. You can either shut everything down permanently because we won't work for you during this transition, or you can agree that people deserve fair pay for fair work. But that didn't happen, and they all lost their jobs. So, and by the way, I want to say when I started that push to unionize, we didn't know that they were, no one at that facility knew that they were shutting everything down and shipping it to India. Unionization, I really truly believe is the highest form of democracy that we can possibly have in this country, because so much of what happens is determined by whether or not you have the economic power to do something. The only reason we talk about, and yes, I have to go bring up the banner. I have to go bring it up because he was in the news. So therefore, I'm going to use him as an example. But I fucking hate the bastard, that worthless son of a bitch. Musk gets attention not because he's good at anything, because he's not. He sucks at everything. I'm fairly certain he has to have a stunt cock in bed. I mean, that's how much I'm sure he sucks at everything. He's just that bad that he can't even fuck properly. Probably got out a turkey baster to make his fucking kid. But he has power because he has that much money that he can just push everyone else out of the way. All sense, all reason, all fundamental rules of how society needs to run, because he has that much money, right? With unions, the workers have power. They have the power to change things. They have the power to ameliorate that inequality. To say, no, workers need to be paid more. I mean, if the company is making record profits, then the people who work to make those profits should be seeing it in their paychecks. You all invested a great deal of money. We, however, do all the work. And if we're doing all the work, then we need to be paid for it. Because that work is apparently more valuable than you imagined, because you are making even more money on top of what we do. And it's what's called surplus labor, is what Marx called it. And it is the idea that by the very act of your labor, this is the added value that you provide to the product or service. And that, as it stands in a purely capitalist system, that added value is captured purely only by the owner, never by the worker. So the worker stagnates, even if the worker works harder, even if the worker is more productive, which American workers consistently improve productivity. In other words, for every dollar spent on their labor, they consistently keep on producing even more dollars every year for their labor. They'll see that back. That shouldn't be the case. And unions are the best tools that we have yet discovered to fight that. And we've got to bring them back. Do we need to be vigilant that we don't fall into that pattern of fuck you, I got mine? Yeah, we do. Do we need to be vigilant to say bad actors in these organizations can use them to their own benefit? Yeah. We always have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant about that in government. Hi. The former guy. I managed not to swear and or speak his name. Yeah, we have to be vigilant about all those things. But we can rebuild the union system in America. And we have to. Any job that you work should be one that pays a living wage. In other words, I have enough money
to get myself to and from work. I have enough money to live someplace reasonably close to my work. I have enough money to feed myself and at least one other person, and house one other person, with me. And I have enough money to make use of my free time, such as, hey, I'd like to go get a meal at a restaurant, or I would like to go see a movie and do things like that. That's a living wage. And every job should pay a living wage. But what about 16-year-olds? It's gonna be a very well-off 16-year-old. They can put it towards college or save it for later. But the 16-year-old's labor is no less than a 55-year-old's labor. Right? Well, why do I pay the 55-year-old more? Well, the reason you pay the 55-year-old more is because the 55-year-old knows more, has been loyal to you, and has now gifts your company with the added value of their experience. I encounter this on a regular basis, day in, day out. The person who's been there forever knows how things work. And if they know how things work, then they can impart that knowledge to other employees. That's why you pay the veteran employee more than the 16-year-old. But the problem is you should still be paying the 16-year-old a living wage. And the fact that you aren't paying the 55-year-old a living wage, I'm pretty sure you're going straight to fucking hell because you're a giant-ass fucking dick. But yeah, we need to start evaluating that, and again, as we move back from, as I think we will move back from our current trade regime and start pulling things back home. I think it's doubly important that we start talking about unions. And the thing is, they don't have to. This doesn't have to be confrontational. I've never understood this from Starbucks and Amazon. Starbucks conversation was, well, we've always tried to take care of our employees. We don't want to add someone in between us and our employees. Holy shit. If I have to hear that fucking bullshit one more time, I'm going to lose my shit. Right? It's insane. No, I mean, because it's, it's a lie. They know it's a lie somewhere in their head. I don't care how honest they think they're being with themselves. There is no protection for the individual employee negotiating with the big ass corporation that can say, well, we can replace you tomorrow. We can bring someone in from another store. We can do whatever the hell we want. We don't need you. But to the individual employee, yeah, they can do that. To a union, oh, now we got a thing, right? We got a little dance party going on. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, I want to clarify. Lucas is here, and Lucas is playing with
Hey! So, yeah, if you try to share a window, it just throws it right the fuck up there. There's no backstage waiting for the fucking window. I was going to let you deal me in as you see fit. And, then there's
I was going to finish my little rant about unions and
continue your union rant. I'm just here. Ignore me.
I mean, they've had to listen to me now for an hour and 20 minutes. They might as well listen to me for 5 more. This is not really going to make a fucking difference. That is such the deepest level of bullshit, though. It's so incredible because there's no way you can possibly be honest with yourself as a business owner. As someone who's owned a business and said from the very beginning, if we get to that point where we have wage employees and not just people working for this business as a startup, they have to be unionized.
And if they don't want to join a union, then they should have some collective bargaining agreement, because that ain't fucking fair, right? I don't want to be. I am smart enough to recognize that I can look at a situation and say, "Well, I don't need you," and that's sending a message to every other employee that's there that says, "Well, shit, he can fire me at any time." I mean, it doesn't matter how irrational or how stupid his request is, or how, whatever manager he put over me, how stupid or irrational his request is. I've got to do it, or I lose my job. No one should ever have to experience that, because that is the definite. That if you want to know how we went from being a highly driven, innovative economy to we sell fucking stock and that's it. We're being fucking honest. That's why. Because the guy who has the idea he's going to get fired because he doesn't have a union. And we need to get back to that ideal where workers have protections and can sustain themselves. And they know that if they have to go to another company because of either a business decision, right? And I want to be clear. If you're a genuine fuck up, the union's not going to save you. I mean, we're not talking about the police union, right? I want to be very clear.
The police Funny you should mention that.
The police union is an entirely different species of beast that needed to be drowned in a shallow tub at birth. I would say
that was harsh, but I just came from a place where that would have been one of the lighter comments.
But I mean, we're talking about workers' unions.
And, I figured that out,
right? Which are not police unions, and so if you're a complete fuck up and you lose your job, the union is not going to save your ass, because the union is there to keep the business running. Because if the business isn't running, no one gets paid, right? That's, again, one of the fuck-ups from the 70s and 80s that happened, which is the union stopped caring about whether or not the business worked. They just wanted their cut. None of the unions that we're talking about today are playing in that arena. The workers the Starbucks workers and the Amazon workers who have unionized don't want Amazon to cease being. They do not want to make that many fucking trips to Target. All right? They do not want to have to go find whatever, they do not want to have to go find that many Dunkin' Donuts, right? They do not want Starbucks to cease to exist. They care that Starbucks exists. They want to continue drawing a paycheck from Starbucks. They just want a fair shake of what Starbucks is making so that they can survive. Instead of just Starbucks. Instead of just Amazon. Or Bezos dick rockets. I mean,
have you used this yet tonight?
Yes, you just missed
it. Boner alert.
I left it on for an exceptionally long time. Because I pointed out, one of the only reasons we care about Musk is because he has a shit ton of money. That's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't innovate shit. And he's one of the most anti-union employers that you can possibly find. Because of course he is.
Especially, well, yeah.
I mean, especially since so many of the people who work in his factory are not as melanin challenged as him. Yeah, I went there. You Afrikaans fuck.
Well, once you've worked your way around to Musk Afrikaans, you've probably run out of steam for it.
Yeah, I have. I have. Once I get to reminding everyone that the Boers are shit, and it's probably the only group of people YouTube and Facebook will allow me to insult on a regular basis.
So did you have 2 beer breaks yet?
No, I only did the one.
Oh, so, really? Well,
I left it open so that you'd get here and there'd be a beer break.
well, shit.
And
I
I
guess I
just
got here
finished.
just in time, didn't I?
I just finished my shitty aged drink.
Awesome. Well, then I'm only on my first, but for everybody else, it's time for another round. So, David, I'm just doing a cheap repeat because it was in the fridge when I walked through the door, and I knew it was big enough and hearty enough to give me a decent buzz out of that fucking place.
There we go.
I'm very proud of what I saw tonight. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm doing more heady toppers straight out of VT.
I am doing something that came in my grab bag this month from Red, and I was intrigued because it comes in this tiny little bottle. I want to put this up next to the mic so you can kind of gauge how small this bottle is. It's so very tiny.
Oh.
You
mean that mic you have turned the wrong way?
Do I have it turned the wrong way?
Nipple to the face. Nipple to the face.
I had it kind of turned to the wrong way. I don't know. I did a sound check before I went live. God damn it.
I'm also eating apricots because they're quiet enough to chew, and I haven't had any food lately, so it could get bad.
But this is Urban Artifact Stegosaurus.
It's reddish.
That's because I'm pretty sure this is a lambic. There's so little labeling on this. It's incredible. Spontaneously fermented.
And we don't have the lower thirds for the beers tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Take a screenshot of the bottle and move on.
Yeah, wildly. Oh, that's right. That was the big deal about this. It's wild cultures. So they just literally left cherries out and hoped that yeast would show up, and yeast shows up.
Giggity.
From the Ohio River Valley, I'm really concerned. I may have made a bad choice here.
Nah. Show that bottle again. There's a pink Stegosaurus.
Yes, because it is apparently two different types of cherries that they just sat out and waited for wild yeast to colonize.
Your camera hates you, by the way. Like, it never wants to focus on what you want. It's hilarious.
No, it does hate me.
I know that you are.
It is quite. I just want to give a review. It's quite tart. Because I gave a decent long review on barrel aged ink.
And so you said it was, what was the natural they had? What was the phrasing?
Wild yeast.
Wild yeast. Okay. So they just kind of waited for yeast to show up like a porno and unzip and drop trowel.
Yep.
Make beer.
Yep. So they made it's a lambic. I don't know. It's almost like fermented. It's almost like carbonated cherry wine, I guess. I don't know. Not to be confused with North Carolina's primary export of cheer wine.
I was just about to ask.
No, this is like it's fermented.
Primary export.
Do you know anything else from North Carolina you can find everywhere?
EA games.
I said export, not disease.
So is it good?
It's like a lambic. I mean, if you've ever had Creek, which is Framboise is super carbonated. This would be like a Creek, which is normally made with blackberries. It's normally a blackberry lambic.
Lambic is what I often encourage people that say they don't like beer, but they like wine or soda. I try to get people to check out lambics because it's a way in.
Yeah, this would definitely be. This is almost a very tart alcoholic cherry. So I have no idea. Does this even say how much is in this?
Olivia said, "There's no cheer wine in my vicinity, only Moxie." I don't even know what Moxie is.
Holy fuck!
On the Moxie. What?
This thing's a bit alky.
Yeah? What's the percentage?
It's 8%, but if you were just pounding this back,
Is it a dangerous 8 where you can't tell?
Yeah, it's a dangerous 8, man. It is a definitely dangerous 8. I mean, there's no
Teddy
alcohol.
Topper
in
is an 8, but like you would assume,
No, but I mean, like this tastes like cherry soda. Like it tastes like lightly carbonated cherry soda,
So it's
and
dangerous.
there was no alcohol flavor. Like even like Framboise or Creek, or whatever the peach version is. I forget. Stupid Germans and their different words for things.
No, but you're right. You're right. Those would have a little giveaway.
Yeah, this has no giveaway. Like none.
Well, you long-winded bastard. Thank you for holding up the show. Literally, like with your arms like Atlas. Olivia says, by the way, to clear it up, Moxie is best described as root beer-esque, but spicy.
It's supposed to. I think Moxie is supposed to be root beer.
So I know you already did this topic, David.
Yeah.
But I received a new piece of merchandise that I've been waiting on. This is a yard flag. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put it on our little flag stand in our front yard. It replaces the rainbow text, the standard issue liberal values flex banner that everybody has. Everyone's a person, healthcare is a right. It's all written in rainbow. I forgot what the fuck. Anyway,
I mean, you're gonna have to rewatch the show because I went on a whole fucking rant about how we need to stop trading with China and Russia entirely.
Oh, I'm sure it's grand. Well, we all know why I'm not here, but now I am. So I just got back from City Hall from the commission meeting. It was a lot of fun. I hate that sociopolitical stuff honks my bobo like it does, because it makes me feel like my fun is at the expense of horrible shit, especially in this case. And the city that I moved to has managed to make worldwide fucking news because some trigger happy dipshit cowboy motherfucker cop has more and more what sounds like executed a black suspect. And I don't even know if that's the right word. Suspect is probably a really iffy term because we keep learning things. So I will share real quick the photos. Oh, well, it forced you back into frame. I'm glad you're back.
Hi, guys. I'll be right back.
Here, let's see what happens when we do this. There we go. All right. So I'll just share a few photos I took earlier. There was a march that was organized to go to the commission meeting. I stopped in there to watch some very good speeches. The young lady in the blazer is the... I have cards, but her office is not on her. She's like one of the Black Panther Party leaders, which I really, really love. She gave a killer address to the assembly tonight, Allie. So shout out to Allie for kicking ass. I've already invited her to the show. I told her we'd like to have a woman of color that actually knows what the fuck is going on come and join us sometime, so that she could break up the white guy sausage fest over here. So there he is. He's back. Look, there's David. Little postage stamp David. So there was that. And then I took a photo of the commissioners, mostly because I wanted to... does my mouse show up? Okay, cool. I wanted to be able to tag them later on Facebook and shame them accordingly.
Oh, Jesus.
Melinda Yasazi is the token Latina on the commission. And she and Sunita Lanier over here are the two women who threw down and tried to act like they were a big deal when it came to opposing police funding stuff, when it was politically expedient, good headlines. And then they folded. And my man Kurt right here next to the flag, he's one of my two commissioners. He's the one I actually like. And now the more I see of things, the more I'm pretty sure he's the only one that's there for the right reasons. I know I'm biased because he took my invitation and did a 2-hour porch summit with Grumpy Man Lucas when he first got here. But Kurt seems to be the real deal. I am still mad at Kurt alongside all these other people because they've all been silent for a week. they've had the opportunity to come up with a statement and talk a little tough, and none of them have done it, and it really pisses me off. So then you have this clown. He's the city clerk or whatever. Nobody gives a fuck. Then the mayor.
Hey. That's a good union job right there.
Mayor Bliss here is in the middle. I think she's a sweet lady. I think I like her, but goddamn, has she fumbled this ball. And then this lady next to her, Hancock, I think is her name. She's the city attorney. Both she and the mayor got roasted hardcore by women tonight. And it was goddamn glorious. The mayor is a social worker by trade, and she had someone actually call her out on needing to reread her social worker oath. And I was like, God damn, shots fucking fired, but I can't say that, it's too soon. And then this other lady of color addressed the elder lady of color on the dais, and it was awesome because she was like, and you, a woman of color up there, I just can't, I got nothing to say. And I was just like, damn, that says more than having something to say. And then Mark Washington, whom is hired as the city manager, and he hires the police chief, so he could arguably override and give a bunch of orders on transparency, and he's basically been not doing that. I guess he's looking for whatever shoebox he stores his nuts in. My other commissioner, John O'Connor over here, I'm really conflicted right now because the members of the crowd called him a bootlicker tonight. I really like his booze. He owns a distillery down the road, a very nice restaurant. I really fucking love his product, and I really fucking love his restaurant, but he may be a softballer about cops. I'll give him credit for coming out one morning and standing on the street to talk to me about my issues with our road. So my two commissioners did eventually talk to me, but all these other chuckle fucks have ignored my emails every time I email all of them. Joe Jones over here.
They haven't learned that you won't stop yet.
Well, I think they have learned, but they ignored it earlier, so they just brought more fury. Joe Jones over here, I can't quite get a read on, but he looks like
School of Negotiation. Everyone, enjoy.
Yeah, he looks like he's another. Well, you know, we aren't really supposed to say the term for what these two gentlemen on the end are, but it rhymes with louse and jigger. So anyway, these two guys were getting roasted and reamed, especially Moody here on the end. I even exchanged some mouthed words with him that he saw, and he nodded back at me with some smart assery. But he had his own words played back from a recording by one of the speaking citizens, where he essentially he totally housed out, if you got my previous reference. Like he was the only one to ever comment on Black Lives Matter or defund, and the shit he had to say was some fucking garbage. And she played it right there in the room, and it was goddamn beautiful. This is to say that everyone should go watch this portion of this particular meeting, because, you know, I spoke first to be able to be free to leave. I got there like fucking an hour ahead of time and signed up first, so that I could be back in time to join in a little bit.
Yeah, the advantages of living in a smaller city than Nashville.
Well, this has easily as many people lined up, and the people in line are making it their business to make sure that these fuckers have to sit here into the wee hours of night. So let me show these other two pictures on my way out. The Grand Rapids Police Department has fortified, as of today. Nothing says we know somebody fucked up like this.
Goddamn.
So this is what the police department currently looks like. Tomorrow they're supposed to release footage. I don't know exactly what footage. I do applaud the chief for rolling back. Originally he said it was Friday. Now he's going with tomorrow, but there's still no motherfucking excuse that it wasn't the next goddamn day. So that's the room. I went first. Don't watch me. You don't need to watch me. Watch all these other people. These people have had some awesome shit to say. And there has been some reaction in the room. They technically prohibit applauding and stuff, but this one redheaded white kid, I think it was one of the redheaded white. Anyway, I think it was a white kid. He basically ran out of shit to say 30 seconds before the timer. He said, I'm not going to yield my time because I want all of you to have to sit here as long as possible and listen to this and deal with this tonight.
Goddamn.
So I will stay here at the mic. And the mayor had called out the room for applauding earlier. And I'll explain that one in a second. But this time, he just stood there quietly, and I turned around to the room. I said, "Let's fill this silence with applause, because now we're not interrupting anything." It was fucking awesome. I basically sat in the front row and made, dick stroke symbols and pointed at people and gave thumbs up.
Again, the Lucas style of negotiation with his elected.
Pretty much. So yeah, earlier on a completely different topic, there was a funding topic. There's like $8.7 million going to some kind of development thing, and there are these different funds that they're going to use to fund it. And some lady jumped in and she killed it. She kicked ass. She basically explained, buried in this real estate project, the funding would partly go to some bullshit police programs. So she actually managed to make she made that topic about the overall topic of the night, and it was goddamn beautiful. But in the middle of her remarks, she stops and looks up at all of them and says, I would appreciate it if you were looking at me when I was talking instead of looking at your phones. To which the whole room erupted in applause. And that was when the mayor stopped and said, we're not going to have that disruption. I will adjourn for a recess if we can't keep the room under control. That's what triggered the animosity of shit like me saying, wow, hey, now let's fill the
holy shit. Way to not read the fucking room, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Mayor.
Yeah.
Well,
she also really irked me by standing there at the press conference last week, the same day that this happened. And she put on her best super sad face, but she had nothing to say. And that bothered me. I felt like she was going to speak. They acted like she would speak, and then she didn't speak. And I don't know what the problem was. I don't know if she was too upset to speak, but hey, guess what? That's when you have to vagina up and woman it out and be a leader.
This is one thing that I appreciated, because Nashville was the first city in the nation to do this, which is the strong mayor council system. With the mayor being strong and the council being a check against the power of the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Nashville was the first American city to adopt this as a formal model, because it was necessary because you can't have a metropolitan county and have a strong council, right, with a weak mayor, right? Nashville has a strong mayor council, a strong mayor, weak council system, where the council acts as a check against the mayor. Which is why I feel like that's part of why our council is in its own way a little bit more responsive, is simply because we can kick them harder.
I think the model here is strong commission, weak mayor. She simply presides over this meeting, and I think she votes. Yeah, she votes because there's 6 of them and she makes 7. Man, she got called out on some shit tonight.
No, I mean, but I have never. I want to be clear. I have never liked the county commissioner system. I've never liked it. I hate. And I'll be honest.
There is a county commission. This is the city commission.
I mean, I've never liked the commission system in general. I strongly advise every American everywhere to adopt a metropolitan system of government, because, quite frankly, it just makes shit easier to deal with. When you don't have, I have a city, and then a county government, and then a state government, and then the federal. How about we just, you know what? How small is your city, your village? I don't know where the fuck you live, where it has absolutely no economic or governmental connection to any of the other communities around it.
David,
why not just have a metropolitan government? Anyway,
if you want to make your little governmental soul ache, look up the townships, villages, city system of Michigan.
No.
It's worse than what you just described. I know. Still haven't figured it all out.
It's so much worse.
I still haven't figured out all the random details.
I don't understand why every place doesn't adopt. Listen, I get if you're like in, I don't know, fucking Utah, right? And your county is the size of some states. I understand. I get it. your town should maybe have its own government, and then maybe then we talk to the county every now and then there's the state government. If you are anywhere east of the Mississippi, the logic of you having a town, then or a town, then city, then county, then state, then federal government is an abomination, and you are a fucking idiot for existing in such a state where it could just be so we, you know what? Bob over in Pottersville and me over here in Potterstown and that guy over there in
The village of Potter.
Potterboro and that guy over there
Potter Township.
in Potter. Like, listen. So just sit here and elect something.
First of all, I'm not gonna.
I'm off the soapbox. I'm not gonna
even
sorry.
waste.
I apologize for the hijack to everyone who listens to
You're
this
good.
later. I apologize for the hijack, but it's just so fucking stupid in my mind, having grown up in a
Completely
metropolitan
excusable.
government.
It is fucked up. You know, I won't even waste any time on the wet dream of could Kent County, Michigan become a metro? Actually, I don't even think they can under the state constitution or something, but whatever. This county has stronger cities than Nashville had when it went metro. Nashville basically had the 400-pound gorilla bully of Nashville, and then a whole bunch of like traffic light speed bump bullshit towns that no one would have fucking noticed.
What's up, Berry Hill?
And yeah. What up, Lakewood? Hey, Forest Hills, how you doing?
Yeah, right. They're still technically independent.
Two of them left, right? Forest Hills and Berry Hill.
Now, Forest Hill, the independent communities are technically Forest Hills, Oak Hill,
Yeah, that's right.
Belmead,
Berry
Hill.
Lakewood's gone, thank goodness. I danced on that grave like a
and
motherfucker.
the part of fucking Brentwood that
Goodlettsville is kind of half of Goodlettsville is in Davidson County. That would never made any fucking sense to me.
No, Goodlettsville never made. Listen, I'm not bitter about Goodlettsville. I am bitter about the fact that we didn't look at Brentwood and be like, cut it the fucking half, bitch. I will Solomon this shit like it's my job.
Yeah. North Brentwood, where more people are free. Yeah, around here, like it would be enough of an act of God to convince all the fucking rich ass honkies in the city of East Grand Rapids to join up with anybody. There's a city of East Grand Rapids. It's a little notch over there where the rich white people. It's also where the high school that American Pie was based on is located.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take myself off screen for just a moment because holy shit, that is the dumbest thing that I have ever heard. My entire
you're just going to take yourself off screen so that you can punch yourself in the dick in celebration of this particular revelation, right? And then there's others. There's like a Grand Rapids Township, not to be confused with the city of Grand Rapids. There's Wyoming, Michigan. There's Granville, Michigan.
What?
I think there's a Grand Haven.
Hold on. You have multiple Grand Rapids.
Just two. I'm not sure what the township of Grand Rapids actually does or why it exists. Grand Rapids itself was apparently like.
I want everyone who views this afterwards to look at my face right now and I like just look at the look of utter despair and confusion.
Here's the best part: none of them have a health department. So for COVID, it was the Kent County or nothing. Kent County Health Department or nothing. And David's back off screen, pounding himself in the nuts to celebrate this this revelation. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't hate it. I actually like as much shit as those people are taking tonight, and they absolutely have it coming because not a single one of them mustered the spine to make a statement that meant anything. A lot of people there pointed out, like, if any of you gave a shit, you would have resigned from your offices and come and marched with us. That could have been interesting. I decided to cut to David because he was flailing and ranting and no one could hear him.
I muted
Anyway.
myself on purpose. I muted myself on purpose.
So anyway, the summary
there was
is
nothing productive of what was coming out of my mouth.
right. The summary, back to the topic at hand. The summary is that they're going to release the footage tomorrow. I don't know exactly which footage. I'm going to have to get an update on that. It's a dude. I don't know. Like,
it remind me, like, let's because
I don't want to be in a city that is on fire, but I have a feeling if this motherfucker really did what people say the family says he did, this shit's gonna be a thing.
Well, okay, so for the sake of viewers and my own sake, because I'm gonna be honest, I am not as familiar with this case as others. Remind us of what happened.
Okay, so the general. You know what? Let me see. I'd rather grab a timeline from local media to run that down because I don't want to miss something. All right, let's see. Nope, that ain't it. I had a timeline. Okay, all right, I'll just try to wing it. From what I understand, a young man, 26-year-old Patrick Lioya, who is an immigrant from Congo. And there were a lot of people tonight who made the point. They said Patrick Lioya and his family came here from the Congo. And this place seems less civilized right now.
Damn.
And that was black folks saying it.
That should gird your fucking loins right there.
Yeah. And you know what? I gotta say, I'm trying to be fair to Chief Winstrom. He just started. I would like to believe that Chief Winstrom is throwing a fucking tantrum around the police headquarters, flipping tables like, motherfuckers, you couldn't keep from doing this shit for the first fucking year. I'm barely here, and I had to do this fucking bullshit. Like, I really hope he's having an I want some butts Top Gun kind of conversation.
But unfortunately, the police union would rather.
Yeah.
For those of you who are just listening and not watching, Lucas just made a very strange and possibly ugly face, which is, I understand, sometimes hard to discern from his normal face.
So, all right. So here's what happened. Patrick Lioya, the original story was that he was pulled over for an outdated plate. He had a passenger, and supposedly he tried to flee. And the single officer working alone that did this stop chased him into a yard of a neighbor nearby. They got into a couple minutes of wrestling hand to hand in the yard. According to the original account, a taser was attempted and didn't do anything. And at some point, the officer discharged his firearm and killed the guy. That was the original take. Now that the family has seen the video, go ahead. I know there's 1,000 problems with all of what I just said.
Again, for those of you just listening, I have been making a face of incredulity for the past 30 seconds because why the fuck was he chasing him? Why the fuck was he chasing him?
That's what I want to know. Like, you have the car, you have the friend in the passenger seat. You're gonna find the guy.
I mean, did he pull a gun on you? Was he literally like was he walking around bow-legged from the keys of coke that were shoved up like taped to him and shoved up his ass? I don't understand. Like what at what point do you look at some guy and be like, okay, I pulled the car over and driver ran the fuck off. Is there a bomb in the car? No.
Like, I have the car. I'll just impound it.
Shit.
And eventually we're going to find
why are you chasing him? Why are you chasing him? Why are you chasing him? Why
So, as
are
far
you
as,
chasing,
like,
especially for an expired license plate? You're
okay.
chasing him for an
Apparently they ran some shit. Maybe he had warrants. I do not know. I do not care because none of it makes it justified. Because all this guy needed to do was walk over to his crew. Well, first, probably handcuff the passenger, unfortunately, at that point, sit them in his cruiser, and then sit down comfortably and make a radio call. So I've got the car and I've got the passenger, but the suspect has fled in this direction. Please send backup and a tow truck, and we'll find him eventually.
I don't even care if they find him eventually. Here's the thing that blows my mind. Okay, so you've got outstanding warrants. Are any of them for?
We don't really know what that really is. So
Were any of them for homicide, manslaughter, rape,
we will
violence against other persons?
we will soon know these things, but right now it's all unreleased.
I'm willing to bet that they aren't, because
I did Google him, and I don't know how many of hims there are in this city, but he may have had a previous interaction with the police for a domestic. But still, none of it matters. No one gets executed in the street.
Fuck you, camera. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, camera. Fuck
Cameras-
you, fuck you,
the
fuck you,
camera
fuck
hates
you,
you,
fuck you,
telling
fuck
you.
you, fuck you. No, still fuck you. No,
Put your whole hand and then. Yep.
eh.
I think if you just put the hand up and yank it away, it'll freak out and find you.
There
you
goes.
go.
It found me again.
So, the newest version of this account is the family has seen the footage and they claim he was already pulled over on the side of the road working on an issue with his car. And I guess this means the cop just showed up and said, "Hey, what's going on?"
Oh no. Okay.
And maybe ran the plate and found that the plate didn't work out.
No, well, that creates a whole nother problem. So for those of you,
Well, hold on, we're not done. So apparently that interaction somehow triggered him running away. And then according to the family, he was shot while pinned belly down on the ground, execution style.
oh, that make it special. So
Basically, if this shit turns out to be kind of closer to what really happened, this is not going to be a pretty place to be.
I have an extra thing to add to the class. So because I've had this problem before. I've had this very exact problem before. If you are pulled over on the side of the road with your hazards on and are not creating a public nuisance, not creating a public threat, and a police car pulls up to you and they have their lights on, things have radically changed. And here's why. Because if the police car just pulls up next to you without the lights on and just asks you, "How are you doing?" "I'm fine. I'm sorry. I just need to change a tire." That's fine. But if they pull up to you with your hazards on and their lights on, the entire nature of what is about to happen has changed. And here's why. One is what's called a public safety stop. The other is an investigatory stop. A public safety stop is just the cops asking, "Are you okay?" If it's a public safety stop and they ask, "Hey, can I look in the back of your car?" You can tell them, "I have an actual 12-inch fucking dildo, an exact copy of John Holmes' fucking cock, except and I literally will shove it straight up your ass without any fucking lube."
Mm-hmm.
If you so much as continue to look at my car, you goddamn fucking asshole. You can do that. If, however, they show up with their lights on and they say, "I want to look at your car," you can be like, "And your reasonable cause is, you motherfucker." But I will be more than happy to tell you, I have that giant, like, extra large copy of John Holmes' cock in my back seat, ready to show up your ass. I mean, you cannot when it matters when you turn your lights on under the law. Because if you don't have your lights on, it's a public safety stop, and they can't ask you to search your shit. They can just ask how you doing. Right?
Hmm.
They're just literally just asking how you doing. If you're doing okay and no one freaks out, then it's just a public safety stop and they can go fuck off.
Yeah.
If you turn your lights on, then it's an investigatory stop. In other words, they're there to investigate something. That's why they've let people know, hey, I'm a cop, right? That's why I turned my lights on. I'm a cop, and I'm here because I think something's wrong. And then you have to answer the court, what did you think was wrong, illegal happening at that time? Which is now how I see how this went down. Because they probably didn't approach with their lights on. They probably just pulled up and said, hey, how you doing? And then they forgot about the whole thing about if you just pull up, it's a public safety stop, you motherfucker. You don't get to investigate shit. You just get to ask how people are fucking doing because you're not allowed to investigate shit unless you see something that's radically fucking wrong. If you see something that's radically fucking wrong, then fine. Turn on your lights and go detain someone.
Well,
But you don't get to just pull up on someone without your lights, right?
I don't have any confidence at all in how this is going to proceed. I suspect this guy massively fucked up on multiple fronts. And this pathetic, ridiculous attempt
Oh no! If he
to
shot him
manage
while
this
he was
shit.
on the ground, unarmed, maybe like the coroner's going to have to make the call, but we're going to have to see where the bullets came in. But if
Well,
he
the
went,
citizens are demanding an autopsy by an outside source, not the Kent County Medical Examiner. And I told you earlier about the Kent County prosecutor that doesn't want any footage released at all, which is a fucking
do
like-
I get to talk about my pet issue?
yeah. You should talk about that because this motherfucker has put all the Vaseline around his tiny little starfish, and he's bent over all the way for all the girth of the police union thug cock as deep as he can take it. When he says he doesn't think that the
All right,
police video
so
should be released.
this is one of my pet issues, and for those of you who've never watched the show, this will always be one of my fucking pet issues. Prosecutors and police have to be divorced from one another. You cannot have the people in charge of enforcing or keeping peace related to at all the people in charge of investigating crime and prosecuting crime. The two must be separate. I personally am of the opinion that investigatory powers should be entirely stripped from the police force. I firmly believe that the prosecutor's office should have sole investigatory power. In other words, your detective should not be a police detective, but a detective from the DA's office. And if the DA's office finds the evidence to support a prosecution, there we go. It's all in one fucking place. Instead of this new game where I have a patrolman shoot someone in the fucking street, then I have a detective show up and say, that's one of mine. I'm going to cup his balls for him. And then we have a prosecutor who shows up and says, that doesn't look right. And we have a detective who says, I don't care. I'm sitting here cupping this patrolman's balls. Why did I bother cupping this patrolman's balls if not for you to go find the fact that this was a good shoot? It's
Yeah.
if you're in charge of prosecuting the crime, you should be in charge of gathering the evidence to prove a crime. And in fact, I firmly believe that the entire idea of how we treat the DA's office, of how we treat prosecution in the United States, has to change radically. I would love to see the idea that your first job, if you want to be a prosecutor, your first job out of law school should be a apprentice detective, essentially apprentice, a junior detective attached to a senior detective, right? Whose job it is to gather evidence and investigate a crime. And then also, by the way, also a law school graduate. Everyone's gone to law school. Everyone knows how the rules of search and seizure work. Everyone knows how the rules of evidence work, right? We investigate the crime. We hand it off onto someone who is again, now a practicing, assistant DA, whose job it is to prosecute the crime. And guess what? That senior detective, what's his next promotion? Assistant DA. And that assistant DA, what's their next promotion? Senior DA. And then you get into elected office and other bullshit. But the problem is that we don't have any. The police are not trained in law, and they don't want to be. Because if they are trained in law, they actually have to follow it.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see how these leaders behave after they've finished the reaming is still happening. As far as I can tell, the public speaking time slots.
I mean,
the people are running a train on the anus of that entire assembly of leaders like it's their job, and they're doing it well into the night apparently. And good for them.
Was he just shot in the stomach?
What?
The guy who died.
Apparently he was shot in the back of the fucking head.
How the fuck did that happen?
Apparently with a knee to his back, according to the family. Now they've retained Ben Crump, of course.
Oh shit! Oh wait, Crump is in this?
Yeah, Crump is the lawyer now. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. We're gonna have like Reverend Al Sharpton down here anytime.
Yeah, your taxes are about to go up.
Thanks. On a personal note, I'm super fucking disappointed because I was trying to give some of these people a chance. I'm also really goddamn embarrassed because I've been talking about how much I've improved my life moving here, and now this fucking bullshit happened.
I be honest, like Metro posted a banner year, even though it was technically the most people shot in a single year. It was only 7.
Yeah, right.
And on top of that, only one of them was lethal. And I'll be honest, we all saw the video, and well, fucker had it coming. No offense, but if you run from the police and are shooting at them as you run from the police, you die, and you get shot and you die. I mean, it's not. I mean, I can't really fault the fucking police for that.
Right. So yeah. Anyway, we're at that time, sir.
We are.
Thanks for doing the heavy lifting, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. As usual, please feel free to share this with your friends, subscribe, like, etc. We are happy to have you do alerts, but we don't expect to own your schedule. You can watch us whenever you want. Slava Ukraini and Putin Kuyo, as always.
I forgot Putin Kuyo. I'm sorry. My bad. I did forget. I'm sorry. But yes, Slava Ukraini.
That's okay.
Glory to the heroes. Long live the resistance.
And as always, we will bid you a good night,
good evening,
and
good luck.